Thanks for joining us again this week. On Monday, the President placed the district's Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and he deployed National Guard troops and other federal law enforcement officers to multiply the police force in the nation's capital. The President claims he's responding to a supposed public safety emergency. Part of his plan is to move all the homeless out of D.C. and far from the capital, but at this point, we don't know where they would go, how he'll do it, and his plan doesn't seem to include providing housing for the homeless. From our perspective, we're concerned that more people experiencing homelessness will be pushed across the border into our county, putting stress on our existing resources without providing the funds we would need to deal with it. The President says this is necessary to combat crime and clean up the city, which is not true. D.C. hit a 30-year low in violent crime. He threatened the same type of action elsewhere, mentioning New York City, Baltimore, and Oakland. President Trump has taken advantage of the fact that D.C. is not a state and claiming emergency powers to federalize the local police department, despite any apparent lack of emergency conditions. D.C. is our neighbor, and we must consider how this will impact us here in the county. The idea of using the National Guard for everyday policing brings up many concerns that we have never considered. It has never been the practice or policy of the federal government to deploy troops for policing purposes. The National Guard are people who have regular civilian jobs. They are not trained to be police officers. They don't know the laws or rules of policing. They're trained for combat, not police work. And if this weren't enough, Trump plans to extend his overhauling of policies to the cash bail policy in D.C. and replacing D.C. area judges who he dislikes. He even appears to be creating new criminal statutes on the fly, declaring that those who even think about destroying a statue or monument will go to jail for 10 years. It's especially alarming because one of the statutes that he's restoring to D.C. is that of a Confederate general, an actual traitor and supporter of slavery. Personally, I find it disgusting. Would people go to jail for considering a crime? How is that legal? He doesn't know. And yet, this is the same person who pardoned criminals for attacking our Capitol building and attacking police officers on January 6th. But here's what we do know. Montgomery County leads our region in offering supportive services and long-term solutions to those experiencing homelessness. We built a large shelter during the COVID-19 pandemic to give men and women more options for finding temporary shelter while we help them find a long-term solution. We're doing a lot, but our resources aren't unlimited, and neither do we have sufficient resources now to help deal with the vulnerable people he's dumping into the county. As I've mentioned before, the annual homeless count, which took place in January, found that we have seen the number of homeless families jump. This pressure from the federal government to make homelessness a crime won't help. I hope that the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments can coordinate help now that homelessness is this administration's target. Between Maryland and Virginia, there's an opportunity to offer humanity and dignity in the absence of such empathy in D.C. Montgomery County's Continuum of Care is a coordinated system aimed at reducing homelessness. Our services to end and prevent homelessness are part of the county's Department of Health and Human Services, and it has a common vision: access by all people to safe, affordable housing and opportunities to improve quality of life. We want to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring, and we've been making good progress on this through most of the year through our short-term housing assistance resolution program, known as SHARP. SHARP reduces barriers to housing for families experiencing homelessness by providing rental assistance and supportive services. Our Department of Health and Human Services plays a central role, providing integrated programs like behavioral health and child and family services. Its ongoing focus is on improving access, identifying gaps, and enhancing coordination for individuals with complex needs. This is a comprehensive, compassionate, and strategic framework, a world away from simply moving people out of sight. All of this is new, unprecedented, and unpredictable. Using the military for routine crime enforcement is a dangerous and slippery slope, particularly when we have a president, a convicted felon himself, who thinks he can invent crimes for his own imagination. We can plan, but we won't know how we will be impacted until we see more from the federal authorities. My fear is that forcing the people experiencing homelessness to leave DC will magnify the problems we have to deal with here, whether it's in trying to house people or feed people. We will continue to do the humane thing and help those in need, as we always do in Montgomery County. I want to thank Comptroller Brooke Learman for her leadership and recognize her efforts to work in reporting potential financial challenges our state is facing due to the displacement of our federal workforce. I want to share a couple of slides from the Comptroller's most recent report. First is a slide showing the differential in salaries between private sector and federal sector employees. Jobs filled in the federal government bring a family 73% more money than the average private sector job in our county. Not only are federal jobs higher paying, but there are many more of those jobs just outside DC's borders than anywhere else in Maryland. Montgomery and Prince George's County have more than 50,000 federal workers residing in each county, respectively, as of the end of 23. This week, I attended the Maryland Association of County Officials Summer Meeting, and these policies, revenue, and budget challenges were a big part of the discussion. I joined Attorney General Brown, Commerce Secretary Harry Coker, and Wicomico County Executive Julie Giordano to share how Montgomery County has been working collaboratively with the state to address job losses. We have leaned on WorkSource Montgomery, our business community, and Mobilize Montgomery to lead outreach programs and keep our residents informed about their options and resources. If you need help, visit mobilizemontgomery.com to learn about upcoming job fairs and ways to diversify your skills. Our region has long relied heavily on the federal government. We used to be considered recession-proof because the government didn't experience the ups and downs of the economy like a recession. But that has changed over the last 15 years, and we've been working to diversify our economy and capitalize on our strengths in life sciences and related industries, while broadening the types of companies that we try to attract now. Last week, the Secretary of Health and Human Services dropped another bombshell, canceling nearly $500 million in federal funding for future vaccine development. The target here is vaccines developed through mRNA technologies. Moderna is one of the many companies to use mRNA to produce a bird flu vaccine that was defunded by the Trump administration earlier this year. Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. supports this decision by claiming that, quote, data shows the vaccines fail to protect effectively against upper respiratory infections like COVID and flu, unquote. In another claim, he says mRNA vaccines can help, quote, encourage new mutations and can actually prolong pandemics as the virus constantly mutates to escape the protection effects of a vaccine, unquote. Health experts agree that this doesn't make any sense. We have clear evidence that the mRNA vaccines that were developed for COVID-19 remain effective at reducing the severity of infection, and they've saved tens of millions of lives. We also all know that influenza viruses mutate every year regardless of what type of vaccine technology is used. And even during COVID, we were looking at panels that show multiple different versions of COVID circulating very early on. It was replicating and mutating long before there were vaccines. One of the great advantages of mRNA vaccines is they support faster identification of effective treatment. It's also significantly faster to produce them than other vaccine methods, which allows manufacturers to be more specific to the current circulating virus strains. The speed of mRNA production meant that the COVID vaccine was available to the public 3 to 6 months earlier than traditional production would have produced it. Our research and medical communities are opposed to and deeply concerned about these cuts. They note that these kinds of advancements in medicine were always funded and encouraged, no matter which political party held office, until now. And that's the sad truth. It is a bad decision, not just bad, but it's also dangerous. Removing investments in mRNA technology will mean that the U.S. will no longer be the international leader in this crucial biotechnological field, and will force us to depend on developments made in other countries that continue to invest heavily in mRNA research. It means a loss of skilled jobs within the U.S. biotechnology sector, and it strips us of the infrastructure and an important tool that helps us respond to emerging threats. And it leaves us reliant on life-saving treatments developed outside our borders. These cuts severely hamper the United States' ability to respond swiftly to future pandemics or emerging pathogens. Instead, we're reverting to an outdated system for vaccination, which puts lives at risk when they don't need to be. It means the work underway to stop cancer with mRNA vaccines will have to stop. This is a steep price to pay when the argument for canceling this is bogus. Senator Kennedy criticized the COVID-19 vaccines that were developed because many people still got sick. The purpose of the vaccine was not to totally block the virus, but to ensure that it was not as lethal to those who contracted it. And on that grading scale, it performed extremely well. Before the vaccines, our hospitals were overwhelmed by patients, many of whom were seriously ill. Hospitalization numbers went down once people started getting vaccinated. Imagine if we had relied on the old system of producing vaccine, we may still be dealing with this national health crisis today. Don't believe what you hear from the Secretary, not anything that comes from the Secretary. He's making up facts to fit his narrative and leaning into the growing skepticism about vaccines. Even President Trump's former Surgeon General came out against this plan, crediting mRNA vaccines for saving more than 2 million lives. He also said, quote, "People are going to die." It is not a safe way forward for our nation. On cheerier notes, I want to remind everyone that the county fair will run through Saturday night. On Friday and Saturday nights, the gates stay open until midnight. Kids 11 and under get in for free. Tickets for adults are $18 at the gate, or you can save money by buying your ticket online for less than $15. Some of the free entertainment available includes a comedy hypnotist, stilt walkers, chainsaw carving, and live music. Parking on site is $20, but we're encouraging people to take advantage of the free parking and shuttle buses from the Montgomery College in Rockville and Germantown campuses. Shuttles start running 30 minutes before the fair opens and go until closing each night. Every summer, our county fair is a place where people of all ages come together to have fun, celebrate our agricultural heritage, learn about farmers who are still farming there, and enjoy time with family and friends. I hope you enjoy it before it's over. Shop Maryland's Tax-Free Week ends Saturday, August 16th. The tax holiday allows families to stretch their dollars, especially as we near the start of the school year. Here's how it works. Clothing like sweaters, shirts, and dresses priced up to $100 each are tax-free. Also applies to other clothing items, including underwear, robes, shoes, and belts. The first $40 of a backpack or book bag purchase is also tax-free. So if you buy a backpack for $60, you only pay taxes on $20 of the purchase. Under certain circumstances, online purchases can also qualify, but many in Maryland see this as a good way to save on back-to-school essentials and support our local retailers. So that's a wrap for today. I hope you're all hanging in there. I hope you have a great time this weekend. Go to the fair, enjoy yourself, and I'll be back again next week. Take care.